All right, here we go. Well, welcome to the first episode of Dungeon Masters Anonymous. I'm Kyle Rudge, and with me I've got a few guests. We'll get into all of that, the proper intros and everything. This is a show where we want to talk about the stories that don't often get talked about as Dungeon Masters. So for those of us that have DM'd in Dungeons & Dragons and various other RPG systems, you'll know that we write like this incredibly amazing content only to have people completely turn left instead of right, and then we never get to tell these stories that we really, really want to tell. So, yeah, we're pretty excited about what we can do here and what we want to show and all the rest. But first off, let's get it going and commence our first meeting of Dungeon Masters Anonymous. Have at her, guys.
Hi, I'm Jordan, and I'm a DM.
Hi, Jordan.
Hi, I'm Justin, and I'm a DM.
Hi, Justin. That wasn't very in sync.
No, not at all, actually.
I'll take it, though.
Should we try it again?
And I'm... Well, no, we could just go with it. And I'm Kyle. I'm a DM and host for today, so...
Hi, Kyle.
Hey! You know what? It'll eventually work out way better than that. So...
Oh, I think on stream you have our names reversed.
So I'm using Skype here to pull windows, and it's just like totally messing with things here. So I'm trying to figure that out.
Beautiful.
Oh, whatever. I'll just change the names. That's gonna be the easiest thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right.
That's true.
Oh wait, I think I got it now, don't I? Don't I? No, I don't. Okay, so first off, we got a few questions that we're gonna go through, and you know what? I think we'll start with guests. So Jordan, it means that you are up first up. So the first questions we have is how long have you been playing tabletop RPGs? On top of that, what is your favorite or primary RPG system? So you don't necessarily have to, go with the one that you play the most, but the one that you'd like to play the most, maybe. And when you do play, when you're not a DM, when you play, what race or class or style do you normally find yourself falling into? So Jordan, you're up first. Let us know.
All right, so we got a lot of stuff here. I've been playing for about 15 years now. I started when I was 15 or 14. With a lot of gaps in there when school got too busy or work got too busy or other people's school or work got too busy. But it's been a while for me. I started on 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons and quickly moved to 3.5. And that's what I played for most of the time, but I've been recently, when I got back into it recently, I've been playing 5th edition, which I would state as my favorite. But maybe that's just because that's what I'm playing most of today. The list of systems that I would like to play is too long to go through, though, so we'll skip that.
Well, has there ever been one that you've always wished or dreamed of? You know what I mean?
I really enjoy cyberpunk stuff, so there are some cyberpunk ones that I would really enjoy, but I also the Dresden's File one sounds really interesting because I really enjoyed those books too, and that would be a really cool world to just jump in, and from what I've read, it sounds super cinematic. The style, like it uses the Fate core system or something like that. So that I don't have enough time. I barely get to play enough D&D. I don't have enough time to jump into all of this other stuff, but yeah. So as for race and class, my go-to would have used to been an elven wizard, and that is partially because that probably is closest to my actual personality.
You're an elven wizard?
Well, the wizard part. If we had magic, that's yeah.
That would be your thing.
Like, I don't know. I see them as kind of like your absent-minded professor type. And,
okay.
Right.
I think I could fit that role pretty well.
So are you like self-negging and you're like saying already that you're absent-minded?
I can be absent-minded sometimes, but they were kind of the easiest for me to roleplay when I was growing up, so that was maybe what also drew me towards them. Recently, as you know, Kyle, I am playing cleric in at least one of my games, and I've actually, that is a class that I would have never touched with a 10-foot pole in the past, and have recently been really enjoying. So,
what kind of cleric?
An elven cleric of knowledge with a 10
knowledge cleric.
Yeah.
He's a sneaky cleric too.
Sorry, did you say a multi-class? I missed it.
No multi-class, just straight up knowledge cleric for now.
Okay.
But I took the criminal background, so he has a little bit of sneak in him.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah.
Cool.
The reformed criminal who is turned cleric.
Who is still
He's seen the light. But
have you guys read Name of the Wind?
No.
Yeah.
What's that one?
Oh man, if you want a class like a really really well done like urchin turned wizard basically, or high end like sneaky guy becomes intelligent guy, that's like a really great story.
Sweet.
I mean, Kabothi, he's kind of like everything, though. Like, when you get further on into it...
He never really gets charismatic, though, right? Like, anyway, maybe we're getting a little too technical into the story of Name of the Wind.
Maybe.
All right, well, Justin...
It's a D&D show, man.
Yeah. Justin, you're up. So how long? Tabletop RPGs, favorite system, and what do you typically lean, race or class?
Okay, how long have I been playing... tabletop RPGs. I actually have to think this one through. I got my first player handbook in. Oh man, it must have been at least grade 5 or grade 6. So that is. How old are you in grade 5? How old are people in grade 5?
11.
Okay, so like yeah, like early 2000s. So
okay.
I think I'm coming on like probably about around 15 years now. But I started when I was very very young, and I played mostly for most of those years, and started DMing really in like 2010, around there.
All right, favorite system?
I definitely think 5e. Like there are lots of systems that I really really enjoy. Like I grew up on 3 and 3.5, so I have a big like place in my heart for those, but and I've played a lot of other different systems, but it really is oh man, it really is 5e. It's so clean, it's so easy as a DM. I have to say 5e.
Okay, and then race class. What do you if you're going to default, what are you defaulting to?
Man, probably wizard as well.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not set on one class or sorry, one race. I like a good gnome wizard. I like an elf wizard. I like wizards are just the most fun to me because you get to be the most ridiculous and the most creative with it.
I guess. Yeah. And you're the only class that uses intelligence.
Yeah. So you're always filling a slot, right? You're always like balancing the party in some way.
Roll an insight check. Oh. You get the wizard to do it.
Isn't insight?
Insight's wisdom.
Wisdom. Oh, investigation. Investigation is what I'm thinking of.
There you go.
Investigation.
Or any
lore.
Any lore.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
like,
proficient in it.
Nobody knows.
All right,
yeah,
that's fair.
And I think that would definitely be because of the utility, not necessarily because of the like. For me, it's the gameplay element of. Like, you can just change the entire way that the party interacts with the adventure. Like, once you get, like, Mordenkainen's Sanctum or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Where you just make an invisible house, like, that really... it just changes the whole thing. Like, now you're a weird, like, roaming hobo party with a mansion that follows them. Like, I don't know. I just always enjoyed that. It's fun.
Well, so instead of a weird roaming hobo party without a mansion, now you have one?
Yeah, exactly. That follows you. It's nice. You know what's really weird?
You're no longer homeless, technically.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't want to be homeless.
Yeah.
what's really weird is I think like a lot of the groups that I've been DMing are post Minecraft groups.
Okay.
So a lot of them are really focused on crafting and buying and owning a house and like all these like really mundane, non-adventure-y things.
Interesting.
Are really, really important to people. Like rules that I have never had to pay attention to, I had to pay attention to for most of my adventures, like daily lifestyle costs and how much it costs to own a home. And like, there are rules for those. It's just like, I did not think I would have to know those.
Totally. Well, because I know for me, like I've often, I saw a Reddit on the D&D Reddit where it did like somebody did about not alchemy, herbology, and so you'd find all these herbs, you'd mix them into like various alchemical potions, and you had to find all these things. This is where you'd find them. Here's the tables that you roll if you're gonna go and search. And I'm like, I am strangely drawn to this. This just feels like I'm playing Fallout, except I'm doing it in D&D.
Yeah. Crafting systems, like if there was a really robust crafting system in D&D, I think people would flip for it.
Oh man. Okay. For me,
you just have to make your own. Like,
well, you can, but it is so complex. That's what Reddit is for.
I can't be bothered for that.
Okay, my turn. How long have I played tabletop RPGs? This is an interesting one. So, how long have I played tabletop RPGs by myself or with others?
Hold on a sec. Wait. How do you play by yourself?
Okay, I grew up in northern Canada, where there is no. This is pre-internet, right? When you were in grade 5 in 2000, I was in grade 5 in 91. So, and so I never really had anybody to play with. And so I would literally just build worlds and characters and then dream up stories. But there was these books. They were kind of like choose your own adventure books. Steve Livingstone created these books. And so it's like a choose your own adventure. So you go, it's just like, do you want to do this? Turn to page 48. Do you want to do this? Turn to page 83. But every so often you would get an encounter, and you would have a D6, and you would fight this thing to see if you could pass by it, and you would gain treasure or various other, and then you would go through. I love those books.
That's cool, man.
So from the moment that I could read, I think I was playing tabletop RPG, but finally it wasn't until I got into about high school that I found some people who'd actually play with me. So it took a while.
Aiden in the chat says playing tabletop RPGs by myself, that hits me in the feels, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lonely.
We're Aiden now.
Recently I actually found I don't know if I have it on my desk, so I think I moved it. But I had created this little card where I cut out. It was like a template, and you'd slide it over something, and then it would show you your stats. And I'm like, I seem to recall I built this where I had like a whole bunch of cards. I'd be like, I don't know what I'm fighting next. And I'd slide it over this card that I shuffled in. I'm like, oh, these are the stats, and this is what I'm fighting.
Whoa.
That's
cool, though.
I was a lonely child.
Yeah, you really have to be creative to.
Oh yeah. Okay. Favorite or primary RPGs? I'm loving 5e is so easy to introduce people to. That's what I'm finding.
It's so good.
I really started to get into 3.5. 3.5 is a bit of complexity. I did some Pathfinder. 4.0 was just a gong show. Trying to introduce somebody who's never experienced D&D before, it was so hard. But
like it was more of a miniature battle.
Yeah, that's that. And there was just so much like little tiny nuance of math, and you got to really sit down with somebody to teach them that one. So even for me as a DM, I'm like, I can't keep all this in my head. I'm not interested in reading all this. Yeah. But there was one you reminded me, Jordan. You said about a cyberpunk one, and I've been trying to figure out the name of this. I met a creator of a game at Gen Con, and the style of this game, it was cyberpunk-ish, was that you had a soul, and your soul could transfer to different bodies, and then you would get different, like your whole body, like your strength, your charisma, and all of like how you looked, everything would change, and what you could do. So you could be like a will-o'-the-wisp, sort of like an ethereal type creature, and then all of a sudden your consciousness is yanked out, and now you're into a robot body. And and you'd have to change because you'd be going to different planets, and not every planet could sustain the same type of life that you were inhabiting, and so you were constantly changing and reinventing yourself. And I don't know. I love the existential questions that involved. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, that sounds,
I will find it.
Very Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, exactly. And so I always wanted to try that one. I was super intrigued. Race, class that I typically play. To me, you said class was so important to you, Justin. For me, it's race. I love playing monster races. I love playing like the crazy. This most obscure. I will pick tiefling before anything else.
My DM alarms are just like no.
Yeah, and so I've got.
You don't get to be a bullywug, okay?
I will admit right now, in the one campaign that I'm a player, I am a goblin wild magic sorcerer, and so I love the. I used to be the cleric DPS tank, like that was my role. Always useful. I never had, like, if I ran out of spells, I could still hit people with a hammer, that type of thing. But recently I've discovered the high damage, either assassin or I'm going to take the highest damage spells that I can and just fire them as fast as I can. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, is the most damage as quickly as possible.
That's cool.
Okay. So, that's our introductions for everybody. Good stuff. One of the things that I wanted to bring into the show was this idea of 12 steps. So,
okay,
because you have,
we're recovering DMs.
We're recovering. Well, we're coming to terms.
I don't know if that applies if you play every week or month.
We have to come to terms with our addiction first. So.
Okay. We have to accept our reality, I guess. That's the first step, isn't it?
Yeah, it's partly it. So so we'll go through the 12 steps, and so each for the next 12 episodes, I want to write a step that basically admits that we are addicts when it comes to this. So step number 1 is we admitted that we are powerless over the dice, that our lives have become, or that our DMing lives have become so unmanageable. And so this idea is like, we could write and we could have our stories and everything planned, but the dice, man, they always tell a different story.
Yep. Oh, man.
Yeah.
So there's step number 1.
Oh, man. There's so many things that come to mind when you say that, too.
You know what? I think for me, one of my favorite parts is when you do have that, right? Where it's like, okay, I'm gonna perform in front of this entire crowd. Okay, go ahead. And I roll a performance check. 1. Well, this is gonna be fun.
And especially, what does that mean for as a DM and as a character? Like, you're like a trained bard or some musical professional, and you rolled a 1. Like, what does a 1 look like for a professional? Like,
well, what does a 1? Sorry, continue.
No. You're good. You're good.
What does a 1 look like for a professional versus someone who is very much not a professional?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I can...
Because,
I was going to say, I can say for my wild magic sorcerer who decided to perform on stage and rolled a 1, I did light the entire tavern on fire. So... I figured like, well, I rolled a run, everybody's booing. I'm like, all right, I'll cast invisibility. And then I'll cast Chromatic Orb at 2nd level with the fire damage at the door to try and get away.
Wow.
He's not allowed in that tavern anymore.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
I'm surprised he's allowed in that town anymore.
I think the DM was being kind.
I think so.
Some DM fiat for you.
Yeah. Okay. Stories that we always wanted to tell, but our players were simply not. They went left instead of right, kind of thing.
Yep.
And so I wanted to give. I have one story that I prepared for everyone. My story comes from the game Titan's Grave. So this is the one that Will Wheaton made over top of the Fantasy Age RPG system. It's a 3d6 instead of a d20, but that's regardless. And so I wanted to build something in this world, and so I built a one-shot campaign. People really, really liked it, so I started, playing this more and more with a group that was really into it. And so they had discovered a an underground fighting ring. And so they wanted to infiltrate this underground fighting ring, which was fine, sure. And so the only way that they knew how to get into it was actually going to the fight and then waiting for everybody to leave and then jumping into the ring and figuring stuff out from there. One of the things was that we had an orc in our party, and his older brother that always abused him was the current champion that they found out of this fighting thing. He's like, I need to prove myself kind of thing. And so they jump down. There's nobody else around. They're in the ring, and there was 2 exits. There was the way that the champion would come in and the way that the challengers would come in. And the way the challengers would come in was open. The way the champion would come in was like this large grate that just would lock down. And so they're like, well, we want to go to the champion's way. Okay. And so they proceeded to roll and fail multiple strength checks until they finally made it through this champion's way. They went through, they raided, they beat, one-on-one. The younger brother beat up the older brother, and they made it out. And one of the things was that they went through the main office, and then there was another door. So like, okay, let's go to the other door. They look in the other door, and they see that there's stairs leading down. And they're like, oh, there's probably something really interesting there. And it was where, like, if you went left, you would have went down into this area. And they're like, whatever. And they left. And I was so mad because I had, like, pages upon pages of things that they would experience. So the idea, okay, so if they had gone left, first thing, they would have went to the training room, and there was, like, various weapons that they could find, like, all lined up that a challenger would, like, they could take one into the ring kind of deal. And then after that, there was a prison with 4 prisoners. And each prisoner, I had written out in-depth stories for each of these 4 prisoners.
Oh, no.
And so one was a half-giant. And so this half-giant was like, I'll help you. And so I had, like, scripted lines of what this guy's going to say. I'm going to help you. And his backstory was his brother had died in the arena. And so he was next up to fight, but he didn't know his brother died. He just assumed his brother was the champion, and he was waiting for his chance to get away to go back home. And, being this half-giant, super, super strong, everybody would be like, yeah, let's free him. His story and the way that he was going to do is the moment he had a chance to run, he was actually a coward, and he was going to book it. And so I was like, okay, well, we'll see. Maybe they'll take the half. And then there was, this one that I was super excited about. He was essentially like, how would I describe him? Like a super, super small halfling. He's kind of crying, about his brother and sister. They probably miss him. He's the main breadwinner. And, and if they had rolled, they'd see that he was a little bit shifty, and maybe he wasn't totally telling the whole truth. Like, some of these things are true, but not all of the things. When in reality, this is like a super master assassin who was sent to kill that orc and actually came willingly. And so when they released him, he was going to look for the chance to backstab everybody and just try and kill everyone that he can. The moment he had a chance, because he's just psychopath. Like, he's just a psychopath. Then I added a third guy that was he was kind of like in they would call him a Saurian in Titan's Grave, but for 5e it'd be like a Yuan-Ti, so a reptilian kind of character.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
He's just bitter and jaded, and basically he's like super like, oh, that's it, I've just given up on life, I've got nothing to live for anyway, blah 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 blah. And he's like, I don't even want to fight. But if they did release him, he'd feel indentured to them and then serve as another hand in the fight. And then last but not least, and I was so excited, was a human who had this great story, and like, he could name off like his whole family line, and like, I was a herb farmer, I'm scared, please help me. They took me from the farm, and I have no idea what I'm doing here. But the reality was he's actually a guard who was planted there so that to alleviate some of these things. And so he would have like, hit an alarm and alerted people, or, betrayed them the moment he had the chance, but he was just an informant. And I'm like, man, I had so much for these people, and they never went to the slave prison.
Oh, man.
Did you say that guard could name his whole family line?
Yeah, I had his whole family line written up.
How far down did you go?
I went to third, like, so great grandparent. And like I had names, I had job, like because I was thinking like
that is crazy.
If he's gonna come up with a story, like I want to make this believable, and so like I had written so much of this guy, and like because all of his lies, I'm like they will not catch me in this lie. Sure enough, they never even went there.
That is so deep. That's going so deep.
And so it's just one of those things where they had a great time, they made it out fine, and the slave prison was never acknowledged. And as far as I'm concerned, all 4 of those people died in prison. So.
Oh man.
All right, so that's my story. Jordan, Justin, do you have any stories that you wrote that your players were too stubborn to experience?
I've got a great one actually here. So we were doing one of the first campaigns that I was doing with this group. They were like again, they were part of they're very like post Minecraft group, so they were all about like building an empire. They were part of a house. And they were like trying to advance the cause of the house, and it was this fun little lore twist because anytime someone would die, like the house would kind of just hire another person or find another person to join the cause of the house. So it's like the cause always stayed, which was really interesting. So they were trying to like basically it was fairly open, but I had like 3 or 4 different ways that the players could go to like destabilize the ruling house in the city.
Okay.
And they decided to follow a lead that led them into the sewers. And they go through the sewers, and there's, it's kind of your classic sewer encounter. Lots of undead, though. And, like, they're fighting shadows. And this is in 5e, by the way. Sorry, I'm literally reading through it here. And basically, like, the thing is, they fight through all these undead. And the idea is that they get to the end where they actually meet another house that has been almost completely wiped out, and this is like their secret base, and they're looking for revenge on this bigger house, and they want to ally together.
Okay.
And so my party fights its entire way through the dungeon, and makes it to this end point. They fight a mini boss, and then they get through, and they just botch over and over and everything. Like they can't hear anything, they don't know anything, they can't overhear the guards like being like, "Man, can't wait to kill those guys we don't like with all these undead." Like, and so they storm in and they kill them all. And like a major major plot hook is gone. Like the entire way that they were supposed to destabilize these people is just gone. Like they wiped them all out. Like now there's just zombies and undead in the city. Like so literally then on the fly I have to like come up with, I'm like, okay, like what happens? Like I made it so that their reputation started getting like tarnished in the community because people saw them coming out of the sewers, and then the town suddenly became filled with just random undead and like shambling things, and like, oh man, but it was just like the perfect example of like, and this is like just one of many plot hooks that they could have gone with, but they just completely ruined the whole thing. They just killed the guys they were supposed to ally with.
That's when you bring in the giant lich lord and be like, okay, fine, I'll show you now.
You're fighting a lich. What are you gonna do? You die. And
that's a perfect example though of the dice deciding stuff.
Yeah.
Because like that's not even your player's fault. That's completely the dice.
Oh, it's the worst when your players like they just need to find like a little bit of information to kind of move and edge them along, and they never roll higher than a 3. And it's like,
what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Come on. Okay, fine. He just tells you because he thinks you're cute. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Another big one, like, but the thing is, after a certain point, I started. Actually, sorry, I'm taking up time for Jordan. I want to hear Jordan's story.
Okay. So a problem that many of the groups that I've had is that we get bored and move on to a different setting. So most of my stories are actually less that the players went left instead of right, and more that we were like, well, okay, we'll try this other thing now for a while. But so there was one campaign where I had set up like an NPC, a wizard, for the party to go to get like all their quests and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And he was going to be sending them all over the place into different dungeons to go find this, go destroy that. And I would probably lay some breadcrumbs here and there, but the idea was this guy wasn't actually a good guy. He was an evil lich that was imprisoned in the tower, and the players were actually going around and destroying all of the magical items that were keeping him imprisoned there. And so eventually there was going to be the reveal when they finally free him. And I was really looking forward to that, but we got bored like 5 or 6 sessions into that one. So my problem, I planned like years ahead, and then...
Man, there's good stuff in those years.
Yeah, I know!
Yeah.
I had...
there was, like...
I was just,
I see the fruition of my plans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Man, no, I had a... so, like, I'm thinking about that, and probably my greatest success as a DM was something like that. So I had... It was the same Titan's Grave campaign. The way that we had done it was that the original one that I wrote, I had a co-writer, and so the two of us wrote the original one-shot campaign together. And then... because we ran this at a convention and there was a bunch of people that wanted to play, he took a group on his own, and so we communicated back and forth, so a lot of our storylines kind of like interwove, but these groups never met. And then my group was wanting to come to an end, and what I had done was every session I had, like, we have what were called intrigue sessions, which were like email sessions in between, and so they were betraying each other like you wouldn't believe. Like, so one of the things that I had done, and this was like in the second session of this, and this session went on for like probably about 12 to 15 sessions. In the second session, one guy, he found a dagger in his room, and on the dagger there was a note. Inside the note, it said, you know, we saw like this vicious massacre that you had just performed, because they were all bloodthirsty, and it's like, this is your trial to enter the Assassin's Guild. Here is your mark. You must kill this person. The secondary objective is that you must maim the second in command of this corporation, so that, you know, basically, so it looks like he didn't hire them. So it looks like he got injured as well. And then the third is to basically get out unseen. And so he never told the party about this, ever. And so it was probably about 6-7 sessions in, another party member, their brother is suffering from this like drug overdose, this like bad drug thing. And so they're trying to find like a solution and a cure. And then this guy speaks up. He's like, I think I know someone. Can you look around for this guy? And it's his Mark. He's like, I'm pretty sure he knows something about what's going on. He didn't know a thing. And he led the party on this goose chase to find this guy. And they're like, okay, let's sneak in. He's like, yeah, okay, everybody all set? He's like, I kick in the door and I start firing. just killing everything. And so he maims the second in command guy. Meanwhile, this second in command guy has actually hired 2 other members of the party privately to do other jobs, and have paid them to betray each other, blah, blah, blah. So he was masterminding everything. And he had everybody, and all of them trusted him. They all thought he was a good guy. And so they've been doing all these things, and meanwhile, I've got like this huge thing of how they're, The other group, so the other group is on the other side of this continent, and they're doing all of their things, and they're like a benevolent party. They're diplomatic, they're not bloodthirsty, they're, you know, and they're tracking this guy down that they think is a bad guy, and so they're going to track him down, and it's all going to meet into this one facility. And my guy, he hires the other, like he hires the party that he's been manipulating to be his security guards. And so I had them all in a basement. We were all set up. I'm like, okay, you guys have 15 minutes to figure out, here's the giant map. Where are you going to position yourselves? And if you're stealth, make a stealth roll and pull yourself off the map and let me know where it is. And they're like, okay, that's strange. And so I come back down 15 minutes, and an entire other party comes down, and we expand the table. There's now like 14 people here and 2 DMs. And then one of my players turns to another one. He's like, "Wait, I think we're the bad guys."
Are we the baddies?
I had no idea. So, like, all right. And so
the
that
backstabbing didn't give it away.
Wow.
They never figured it out, and then afterward, so they kind of came to terms, and they had this huge fight, and this leads to another story of like I had this big bad where he would essentially level up throughout the fight, so he would like evolve and gain new superpowers, and it was all because he had this one thing that one of the party members had sold to him and made it look like they got robbed. And that was how he betrayed everybody. And so that was empowering him to turn into this giant, like, half griffin, half human magic user with healing powers, etc. And then the other party had heard something about a griffin claw. They had it in conversation, and then their one magic user decides, he's like, okay, I'm going to do this, and he has a magical surge, and it can nullify one magical effect. Meanwhile, this guy's, like, flying around, and he's, like, casting magic fire and all this other stuff, and he's like, I don't know if he has it in his possession, but if he does, I want to nullify the magic of the Griffin Claw. I don't know what it does, but I think it's bad. And that just prevented the bad guy from leveling up. And I'm like, dang it! And like,
my whole thing!
Yeah, I'm like, well done, you jerks!
Wow. Yeah, that's gotta be heartbreaking. I feel that.
Well, because I had to build a boss that could potentially kill like 10 people that were like super powerful. So like he's got to level up and gain stuff.
Wait, both of them were fighting one boss?
Well, it started out like they were both fighting each other, and then this boss came in, and then they figured out, wait a second, okay, this is not okay. He has the Griffin Claw. Why does he have the Griffin Claw? Who sold it? And then one of the party members was like, it was me. See ya. And he booked it out of there.
And he left.
Yeah. They tried to kill him, but he made
amazing.
it away. And yeah. It was good. It was good. But those are the stories that never get told.
I've only ever run player versus player combat once, and it was the entire focus of the adventure.
Oh yeah.
What do you mean?
It was really cool. So we did we were doing a steampunk campaign in a world of my creation, and one party was part of the what was it, the Liberians People Army, or the Liberian People's Army, which is like I thought
you said the Librarians People Army.
Should be the Librarians People Army. That sounds sick, actually.
Wizards Unite.
But anyway, so they like invented technology, but along with that like allowed them to gain lots of power really quickly, and they were really xenophobic. So these communities like cleansed all non-humans out of them, and like they were against anything vaguely magic sounding. So the one party was part of this like offensive against the old it was a magocracy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically literally the most powerful wizard of all rules. And so they're like sweeping the continent, like literally like taking ground for this new like human-centered empire. And meanwhile, I have another party who's a group of evil mages who are like being invaded. And so they like, and we play for months and months and months. And in each in each of the campaigns, they keep hearing rumors about each other. So the mages were called the Van Doorn Four, and different of the humans had like different like they just had cool sounding names, and they were the champions of their people and whatever. So they kept hearing about each other's names, and they eventually started searching for each other. And then it just ended in this gigantic PvP moment where one party the same thing. Like I went upstairs and then came back downstairs with a separate group of 5 people, and then they just duked it out. It was so cool.
All right, Jordan, what other stories you got?
Sorry. Pardon?
What other stories you got, Jordan? Crazy things that have happened in your D&D campaigns.
trying to go through the different campaigns right now. See, the problem that I do always run up against is we run out of steam. And I'm really hoping that doesn't happen right now, because the current campaign that I'm running, I'm super. I didn't do what I normally do, and I planned small. And
Nice.
they just need to thwart what a hag is doing. That's it. So I planned what the hag's plan is, the NPCs on the island that the hag is,
Yeah.
and that's all we're planning. But I'm hoping to get through that one. So yeah, I don't know, off the top of my head, the Lich was the best story I could come up with. I don't know, Justin, you had another story in the wings.
I do. They're mainly though, like, I basically learned from all the pain of not being able to go through all the fun stuff that, like, I just don't plan the same way anymore. Like, I used to, like, come up with this huge overarching story, and I would even, you know, infuse my new elements into the world to really own the world, and I just don't do that anymore, because I realize that people oh man, they just the half of the stuff that you create doesn't get explored, and half the time though those really big plot moments in quotations, just like, your party could just die. Like that griffin fight that you were talking about, like, oh man, epic griffin fight. Your griffin guy could have just massacred them all. Right?
Yeah.
Like, and then instead of a big climax, it's a big, the party, every 17 people are dead now.
Well, one of the things that I was thinking of, and so one of the campaigns that I'm running right now, Jordan's the cleric of, and so the opening campaign I had come up, like, I love mazes. I love labyrinths. I love
we were talking about this. I hate
puzzles. I love coming up with that stuff. And so what I had done, and this was back in like in the original Legend of Zelda, but Zelda's repeated this throughout. The idea of a maze where it's like you're in the same room and you walk through the door and you're still in the same room, but you have to walk through it in the right pattern to get back into the right. Anyways, so I love those types of mazes. I've played a few games that have had that. And so I wanted to recreate that. And so in one room, there were 4 tapestries, and I was just like, okay, so there's 4 dragons on the tapestries, there's 4 colors for the dragons, though that will be the solution to the riddle, like, to basically be in the room. And so, so of course the party goes up, and they're like, oh yeah, there's tapestries, there's, 4 colors of dragons on there. I'm like, okay. And they're like, well, what does it look like? Like, what does it really look like? I want to inspect this thing. I'm like, all right, fine. Okay, so the first one is a red dragon, and it's breathing fire, and you see like 2 black crispy corpses kind of like in the forefront, and the fire's kind of spreading toward you. And the second one, it's a black dragon, but you just kind of see the rough outline, and its eyes are kind of coming around, and then there's 2 adventurers kind of sneaking, unbeknownst to them. The black dragon is behind them. The third is a green dragon sleeping upon a huge pile of immense treasure and gold and jewels and gemstones. And then the fourth is another red dragon, but this one's different. This one is dead, and it's being hung upside down, strung by its ankles, as a huge crowd of people are onlooking, cheering victory over this foe. They're like, okay, yeah, that's really cool. Okay, sure. And then they get into the room, and then they see that there's, 4 different colored dragons on the doors. So there's red, green, black, and blue. And they're like, oh, okay, this makes total sense. And they're like, okay, well, let's go through the red door first. And they're like, wait, is it trapped? And in my mind, I'm like, I didn't write traps in. Yes, it's trapped.
Yeah.
And they're like, I roll for that. And so I'm like, yep. And then I'm like, okay, let's see how far I can take this. And so there was like a little dais in the middle, and so they touched the dais, and I'm like, okay, quickly come up with something. Kyle, quickly come up with something. I'm like, okay, you need to embody the dragon. You get the sense that you need to, somehow become in touch with your dragon spirit when you touch the door to open it. And so it took them a huge, long conversation to figure out what do we do. And the idea was like fire needed to touch the red dragon's door for it to open. And eventually they get there. So they opened the door, and they got this idea, like, okay. And they're like, oh, wait, what were the rest of the tapestries? I'm like, I never wrote this down. And so I'm like, oh crap.
And neither did we.
And so I'm like, well, you guys can roll an intelligence check to see if you remember. so they rolled like super high, and I'm like, crap. So I did my, and I'm like, okay. I was shocking myself that I remembered what I made up on the spot like 30 minutes ago. And so they're like, okay, the black one. Okay, this is easy. I'm gonna sneak up on the door. And I'm like, okay, roll a stealth check. They roll pretty high, and the door opens. Like, sweet. So they go through there, and then the third one, I'm like, I don't have a solution to this puzzle. So I'm thinking this whole time, I'm like, what is a green one? You sleep, and they're like, oh yeah, just fall asleep. I'm like, nah, it's gonna be more than that. And then I came up with one. I'm like, they have to give, because they're not a party. They were just a bunch of random adventurers thrown into something. They got to give all of their gold to one person. And in my mind, I'm like, this is how they start a party fund. This is how they start to trust one another. And so they finally get there.
Party fund.
They come together. They give all their gold to one person. They open the door, and the moment the door opens, everybody's like, "Give me back my gold." I'm like, okay, sure. And then we get to the fourth room, and they're discussing. It's just like, well, we have to kill somebody. And I'm like, oh no, what did I do?
Oh.
What did I do?
Oh no!
Shoot. I'm like, okay. And so they're talking about, and they're legit. And it's funny because we got 3 youth and 2 youth leaders. and the 3 youth turn is like, I think we should kill the bard. And the bard is like the youth pastor of a church. And he's the youth leader. And he's like, I am not okay with this plan. I'm like, no. And instantly I'm like, oh, they just need to hang him upside down. But for like 15 minutes, they talked and talked about how they're going to kill the bard. And the bard's like, no, I am having none of this. And so eventually they hung him upside down, and they opened up the door, and they made it out. And I'm like, that was the best puzzle I ever created. And I did it totally on the fly.
Nice. Yeah, man, I have embraced more and more just total improv in my DMing.
Yeah.
Which is why I love 5e so much. It's so easy to just reskin things or to just throw things in. Like, I don't know exactly. I can't even really put my finger on exactly why, but like, you're just able. Like, I don't know if it's something about it, the way they designed it, that you can just throw stuff together and it works.
Yeah. Well, and what I really like about it too is it really helps, especially new players, dig into the role playing. Right off the hop.
Yeah,
forcing
totally.
your characters to make backgrounds and actually think about that kind of stuff. Because when I first started playing back in 3rd edition, we didn't come up with any of that stuff. We just made characters and threw them in a dungeon.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's what we did.
Yeah, and I feel like more and more of the parties that I'm playing with are actually focusing on the role playing, which is really cool. Like I have 2 improv moments that are still my shining moments, and they still define my DMing to this day. The first one is I invented a character just on the fly. I needed a name for a bartender that the party was questioning, and so I made up a guy named Rickard Redford, right? Right?
Gee,
Terrible.
how did you come up with that?
How did I come up with that? But like, I'm like role playing my NPCs, right? And he's this like super suave, like I don't know where this came from. He's this super suave, like but really kind, like just like a slick but really nice guy.
Okay.
To the party, and the party just fall in love with this guy, and I fall in love with this guy. I'm like, this guy is so interesting, like he's just super helpful and seems to know lots of stuff about the city, but is like really good at bartending too. Like he's like in the middle of like serving 20 people while he's still just like talking face to face with the party. And I made him a reoccurring character. And so he appears in every single one of my campaigns, no matter where it's set. And like eventually he evolved to this point where he's like this demigod of drink and wine and celebration. And like, because like my party kept like chasing this story with this guy, like they would pursue this story. Like I had nothing to do with the main overarching story, but they just loved it. And so to this day, if I'm DMing any type of adventure, If you search any pub long enough, you will find him. He's somewhere.
The iconic character.
Yeah, he's just, and it's just so fun. Or just sometimes I'll put him in adventures, and if the party...
Uh-oh.
Excuse me. That's why I got all this nice water. If the party, like, they'll just be like a nameless, helpful person at the bar, and the party doesn't seem to pay attention, but in my head, I'm like, way to go, Rickard. Way to keep the thing going.
Oh man!
The second character is a bad guy, who again total improv name, and you'll be able to tell why. His name is Juice Fat Money. Yeah, Juice Fat Money. He's like the just like your typical just scum, right? Like he's involved in some just the nastiest stuff, drug dealing and like like sex trafficking and grody dude. And he, like, for some reason, people just hate this guy. Like everyone who I've like,
even his parents apparently.
Sorry.
Even his parents
apparently.
Yeah, like who names their kid Juice?
Oh man.
But this character has just like evoked so much like visceral hatred that he also has become like a reoccurring character. Like if I ever just need to throw a character in a situation where I just need the party to hate this guy, for some reason, something about, I think the voice that I have for him and like just something about that name too. Just like people just want to like
this guy's sleazy. Yeah, can't trust him.
Like just dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like, and since those moments happened, like, I'm like, man, like improvisation like needs to be more essential to the way that I do things, because that's when the funnest stuff seems to come out.
Yeah, totally.
I love the small little moments. Like I had one campaign that I was playing. The place we played on a glass table that had, it was like an IKEA table, or it was an IKEA table, but it had like a white tabletop, but it was glass over top of the white. And I used to make like all these paper maps, but then I was like, can't I just use a marker on the glass? And it worked out great. And nice. So they wanted to, they were investigating, these various potion dealers or whatever. And I'm like, okay, here's 5. I came up with 5 names and 5 things, and et cetera, et cetera. And that was it. And it was pretty clear which one they were probably going to go to. And, they had the leads or whatever. They're like, but I still want to check out this high-end one. I'm like, oh no, they're going to rob this place clean. All right. And so they do. And they were rolling, like, they were terrible stealth beforehand. And then finally for some reason, it was like they were just on the money. Every lockpick check, every trap check, like they had everything. And so they robbed this store blind. And they even got, and so so I'm making up a story as they go, where they're find the journal of this, this business owner, and how much they hate this other one that I had said. It was like, oh, they just hate him. They blah blah blah, and they're like, okay, well, let's go to the other guy. So they're gonna go to the other guy. They're gonna rob him blind too. So they're gonna go over to this other guy's shop after hours, and they go in, and so on their way there, I came up with this plan. I was like, wait a second, this is like high end town. And then this low-end dealer, I'm going to have the low-end dealer have, like, real potions. Like, solid, this guy knows what he's doing. And he hates the high-end person because they're manufacturing cheap stuff. He's basically watering things down, so it's not as good. And so they uncovered this plot between 2 feuding potion masters. And all of this huge treasure that they had got was all watered-down crap. They were so mad.
That's
amazing. I'm like, I don't know if I'm a horrible person for that, but it was fun.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh,
that's
man.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that makes the improv stuff so memorable. It's that the players get a chance to create the story too. It's less of them going along with this thing that you've scripted yourself and just inserting them in the hero role and more letting them actually choose what the story is, and
Absolutely.
I think players gravitate to that a lot more too.
Yeah, and I think there's something about it that just in the feel of it. Like I don't think like I'll get players often asking me like, "Whoa, man, like that was a really cool thing you planned." Like right? Like and I'm just like, "Yeah,
Sure.
totes. I planned that." But like it's actually great that they believe that. It's really awesome because then they still feel that sense of like, oh man, like I'm really bought in. This is really something that I'm a part of, while still kind of not shattering the illusion.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, speaking of improv, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. After the break, we are gonna do a communal campaign builder. So the idea is that however long this thing takes us, we want to build a giant campaign from start to finish that we can then share. And like we've got the skill set, we've got the designers, we've got graphic people, publisher, blah blah blah, all of that stuff to make it look really good as well, so that you have all your tools to do something pretty cool. And we're going to be building that together. So Jordan, you're going to be in on this. We're going to go through essentially step 1, which is let's build a world.
Yeah.
We get to be gods.
The fun part.
Black and white, man.
Yeah. All right. So we'll take about a 5-minute break. We'll come back and then we'll have Adder.
Welcome, Aiden Elf and Duatson and Lil Marksman. Thanks for showing up, guys.
All right. I'm going to go refill my water. Be right back.
Yeah, me too. Are we muted?
All right, we're back. We are back. Sweet.
We're back.
Hey,
And we back.
And I got all the names right, so that's all good.
Oh, look at that.
Woohoo!
Oh man, we even got our second half like format. Look how slick this looks.
Oh yeah, I'm good to go. All right. So, to make a campaign, we have to build a world, and so I think before we do that though, we kind of have to like figure out what kind of system. Like I'm assuming we're gonna use 5e. I mean, we've all kind of raved about it.
Yeah, I would suggest that.
Is like we don't necessarily have to do it, but have you ever played a system where there was a rule that you thought was better than 5e? You know what I mean? Like a way that they did something better.
The only thing that I can think of is in the character creation itself. So you guys ever played in the Burning Wheel setting?
no.
Oh man, big ups to that. Check it out. It's no, it's not free online. The old version is, but you can buy the new one for pretty cheap. So Burning Wheel is really focused more on like I liken it to more like Game of Thrones. It's a medieval / fantasy setting, but it's like trying pretty hard to be very realistic and brutal. Like combat sucks for you no matter how good you are at it. Getting cut, like if you get cut,
Yeah.
it's pre-modern, so unless you know someone who can heal you, you're gonna get infected, and it's nasty. But they have this whole process called the character burner, which is you like pick up to 12 different things called life paths.
Okay.
So you get like you pick where you were born, then you pick what you did for the first 10 years of your life. Then what did you do?
Okay.
Then what did you do? Then what did you do? And they have like all the life paths link to one another or don't link to different things. And then like you join you could go through your character's entire life and then join at a certain point, or you could just build it up to a certain point. And it just ended with really, really fleshed out, really interesting characters. Because you like now you have their entire backstory.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, I like that idea.
Yeah, man,
It's kind of like playing the game of life, but you just change everything to fantasy settings.
Yeah, basically.
Here's your character. No, I had 7 kids and 1 chariot.
Yeah, think about that. Like, think about a D&D campaign where you had kids. Like, how different would that be? Like, think about what you would have to change in terms of your role playing and your anyway. I think that system is ludicrous amounts of time to add if we wanted to add that to this thing, though.
Yeah.
Like, we would have to literally invent an entire thing of like background trees and all that kind of stuff. So,
see, one of the things.
Oh, like that's up to the DM to create all those trees. It's not.
Oh no!
They're
they're standard. I was saying if we wanted to add it into our thing right now, we would have to make it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Oh man. See, one of the things, like I wouldn't necessarily add this because it adds a layer of complexity, but the Fantasy Age RPG system, they distinguish between armor and your dexterity. So, like for D&D, you basically you get hit, and then the flavor is like, well, you know, or like if you don't get hit, did it just glance off your armor or did it miss completely? Whereas in Fantasy Age. In Fantasy Age, basically you roll to see if they hit, and if they hit you, great. But then they roll for damage, and then you have your armor, and your armor reduces the damage that is taken. So you could have a super hot, like super BB. It's like, yeah, you can't do any damage to me. You could hit me, and I don't do any work.
Yeah.
And I liked the distinguish between that. That's the one thing about D&D that I would change.
Yeah, like I've been watching some Shadowrun Twitch streams.
Oh man, that's a good setting.
Yeah, so that they do a similar thing where you roll to hit and then you roll to resist damage. And it's more rolling, which we all love.
Oh well, Shadowrun too. My word.
Yeah,
the amount of dice.
Yeah.
Okay, so with 5e, what's great about it is that we can go kind of across the board when it comes to genre, because you know, Justin, you had said it too. The idea you could just skin it over anything and it works fairly well.
I mean, it's pretty much as close as it gets to a perfect combat focused system.
Yeah,
like in my opinion.
And it gives a lot of interpretation for freedom, I find, as well. Right? Just overarching.
Yeah.
So then our question is, what genre would we set this campaign in? So is it a fantasy system? Is it a horror system? Is it sci-fi? Is it steampunk? Or is it some crazy hybrid therein?
This is a far-reaching decision.
This is a big decision.
Welcome to episode 1, Jordan.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you got a voice on this. I want to hear from chat. Actually, chat, throw your suggestions in there. For me, like what first comes to mind is like we've kind of had a sub theme of cyberpunk going on here that I've been picking up on. So I would like. I'm also really, really deep into a limited card game called Android Netrunner, which is
totally.
Yeah, and because of that, I've just been hit like just going into cyberpunk like heavy. Like read Neuromancer, I read Snow Crash, I read like a lot of the like, and this is like the first time for me reading these things, and I'm just like eating this stuff up right now. So I feel pretty peak on like cyberpunky type stuff. So Aiden Elf says Lovecraftian steampunk.
My challenge with that, and
Lovecraft is so overdone right now, though. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I'm inexperienced. Like, that's a world I haven't stepped foot in, and so I'm like, that's out of my depth.
There was definitely a big Lovecraftian phase for me.
Yeah.
Did it include a clothing change?
It included it included a change in mental health.
Okay.
That's just a huge theme in Lovecraftian stuff. Is people going mad.
For me, I there's no doubt I love cyberpunk. What if we were to meld that so that there is this idea of technology, and I'm speaking like, okay, so Super Nintendo Final Fantasy 3 / Final Fantasy 6. The storyline is how like everything was magic, but then technology started to come up, and then there's this moment, this time where they're both kind of equal in strength, and there's a combat for which is better. I love that era, and so maybe we can introduce cyberpunk into that, where it's almost the opposite, where technology is super strong, but then there's this unknown force that is influencing technology that is starting to creep up. I don't know.
Interesting. So how badly do we want to be original? That's my question.
Well, and that's one of my questions too.
Because I think as soon as you start talking magic and cyberpunk, everyone's like, oh, okay, so Shadowrun though.
Shadowrun.
Yeah, totally. And we'll beg, borrow, and steal from everything anyway. So
yeah, that's definitely true. I have always wanted to have a way, sorry, this isn't necessarily which of an either or answer, but like the reason that I'm drawn to cyberpunk is that I think it'd be really fun to have combat mechanics for hacking. The idea that like in a battle I'm so legit that I jack in and my party protects me, and I'm like hacking the other people who are fighting my party and like doing stuff to them.
There's a board game. Have you played Captain Sonar at all? I think that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
No. Yeah.
Man, Captain Sonar is so good.
Yeah. And essentially, like, very, very simple description is it's Battleship, but essentially you could play like it's a real-time Battleship against like 4 other people, so it's like 4v4 kind of deal. And you each have a role. So you have a captain of the ship, and he's the one who's like, go north, go east. You have somebody who is maintaining the ship, an engineer who's got a car, and they're doing specific things. And there will be times where he'll be like, fire the torpedoes! Sorry, sir. Our torpedoes are down. And you can't. Then you'll have somebody else who's hearing the other team's captain register their movements, and they're trying to figure out where on this map they are. It's like, well, he can't be here because he would have crashed into an island. So let's adjust this and see where they are. I think I know where he is, Captain. And I love there's small little mechanics in there that I think are really, really neat. That, like, as you say, like, how do you hack while everybody else is doing rolling? Or do you introduce a real-time element to the combat, which I'd love to do because I hate when players get slow.
Oh, what should I do?
And then it's just like,
it's
you
too
should
late.
throw these 3 spells. No, don't do that one. Do this one. Okay, I'll do this one instead. You can't talk.
That's why you have prepared spells, because you need to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And I always loved.
That's interesting.
I always loved the Fallout hacking. I don't know how to implement that.
Ugh, no. Skip it.
It's
Let's do
puzzles.
Bioshock hacking.
That's not very combat oriented either.
No, but I mean, you could have like some sort of real time combat while these puzzles are going on. You have to try and solve to hack it. But I know Justin hates puzzles, so it's not gonna happen.
Yeah. No. So yeah, I'm definitely intrigued by Cyberpunk. I feel like every setting other than something fantasy-ish that we pick is gonna have to be like, we're gonna have to do a lot of work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we're gonna have to invent new systems. And that's fine. My question is just, is that what we want to do with this adventure? Like part of me really wants to just like do vanilla 5e, just like
straight up
traditional,
fantasy.
straight up D&D fantasy, because then it's like the most applicable to the people who are watching and potentially the community. Like, so they could be the one to reskin it, or they could just plunk it right in the middle of their 5e campaign and just use us as a resource, right? Like,
well, we could because even if we were to do straight up fantasy, the question is, how much do we create, right? Like, do we sit in a Forgotten Realms world? Do we adopt the D&D pantheon? Do we use the lands and the characters that we all know? Will they eventually run into Drizzt? Those types of questions. Or is it like, no, we're gonna make our own world, and we're gonna develop our own, like this. We'll still use all of the D&D mechanics, maybe even some of the races, but we won't necessarily use the history. Or they could planar shift to Baldur's Gate and they'll be fine. But we're just making another plane. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, what do you think,
I'm
Jordan?
always partial to coming up with my own coming up with my own world, my own campaign setting over using something like Forgotten Realms. But that's just me, and that's because I like thinking about that kind of stuff and doing that in my off time. So,
what about you, Kyle? How are you feeling?
Well, I like the idea of us having a little bit more in terms of like building history. Like I love having like that in-depth story that they all kind of hear and know, and then they get involved, they discover together this overarching thing. And I mean, you can do that within, but I always feel like I'm borrowing so much from Wizards of the Coast, where
Definitely.
and then I feel like, well, I need to be a super expert in Wizards of the Coast to make sure I get this right, because I'm such a perfectionist. And it's like, it's less work for me to just do that myself.
yeah. I guess something to think about is if you wanted to make this adventure available on the DMs Guild, I think it has to be in Forgotten Realms or something along those lines.
The DMs Guild?
Yeah, that's a
Wizards has a community forum or a place to organize resources from the community. So people can upload their own classes, they can upload their own adventures, they can upload their own races, all that kind of stuff. But I believe their only stipulation with adventures is that it has to take place in the Forgotten Realms.
Okay.
And then it's I think it's a pay what you want for.
Yeah, it is. And I think you get like some kickback and they take some percentage cut or whatever. I can't remember the mechanics. I do, and
that seems like an interesting option, but I don't know if I necessarily want to do that. Like, I was imagining more like just posting it to D&D Reddit or something like. Mm-hmm. But we can. That's further down the road discussion. I think.
Yeah, totally. One of the exciting things about DM's Guild is that it's very well peer reviewed.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it goes through a lot of playtests because people just are interested in doing that. And so they'll tell you, where it's like, yeah, this is broken. This just doesn't work.
Nice.
Which is good. But there's part of me that's like, I don't make broken things. I know I'm wrong.
Don't tell me I made broken things. I don't make broken things.
No way. I'm perfect. I'm the best DM.
But yeah,
I think we could get the best of both worlds though, right? Like we could just like locate the entire thing in like a demi-plane or in a some sort of weird thing, where while technically part of the Forgotten Realms, maybe even set somewhere near Faerun or out of Faerun, like the party starts in Neverwinter and they go through a portal. We could pretty easily get around that. I feel they go to some sort of other place, or we could just literally set it in Faerun and just like borrow tons of lore.
See, like one of the campaigns that I'm running right now, I created a space outside of time so that they could jump into various places, because I love temporal paradoxes, which we haven't got much into yet, but there's a part of me that's like, I don't mind, like, you can jump in. So when you said like the idea of a demi world or something that's adjacent to, that's not foreign from but adjacent to, I kind of like the idea of. I also like the idea of creating. I like the idea of creating religions. Because I just like belief sets, and because there's so much motivation that's found in that, and then there's so much mythology that comes with like, well, we believe in this because of this. I know in Critical Role they're going heavy right now into the Raven Queen, and she's the one that takes people from the She's the boatsman, essentially, to take them from the land of the living to the land of the dead, and worshiping that aspect and that element. What does that mean? How do you expand that? What does that mean when I'm making toast in the morning? And I love those types of questions and creating deep, rich things in regards to it. So I don't know. I want the opportunity to be able to do that.
Yeah.
See, I'll tell you, just my flavor as a DM. Like I am. Something like my like defenses go up when we start talking about like the more and more homebrewed something gets, the more defensive I get.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like I'm not saying that means that we're not. I'm just gonna be like, no, we're not doing it. But I just like, especially when it comes to 5e, they just created something so, at least in terms of rules, so like constant and consistent. And so I'm like, oh man, like what if we mess with that sweet balance though? Like,
but I think we can come up with a custom setting that doesn't mess with the rules.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, and I think that would be like, and I think we could within the setting, like, there could be a way to implement a small aspect of something. So, maybe the campaign comes with one custom class that we also created that we insert into this. And so players are welcome to play that class, but they will probably experience one or two characters that are pretty high level because of this class. It's a new thing that's come out kind of deal. Where we're not reinventing the wheel, we're just kind of adding one little thing on top of that to make that kind of neat and interesting.
That has a little bit of flavor connection with the campaign
with the setting, with the theme or whatever.
Yeah,
cool.
I really like the idea of creating our own demi-plane because, and then maybe if we even make the start of the adventure even more generic, then you start in Neverwinter. If we make it generic enough that a DM can maybe transition from their own home campaign where they are in their own custom setting and just move to this for like however long it takes to do the adventure and then go back.
So our entire campaign could be a dream sequence.
Basically, yeah.
It was all a dream. Oh man, you gotta take all the levels back.
I think it could be pretty fun though. Like we could so it sounds like we're sort of resolving on this. Is that fair? We want to do this.
I think so, yeah.
We want to do we want to do the D&D fantasy. We're going to loosely base it out of let's say the Faerun like world. I guess that's Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
But that we're gonna have it so loosely connected to Forgotten Realms that we can, excluding maybe a bit of details like when the people hop in and out of their this demi-plane, that there's a few maybe notable characters or peeps, the guy who runs the city in Neverwinter or something.
Yeah. And if we want to pull in Aiden's suggestion, like Lovecraftian and or steampunk doesn't have to be like, we can pull in elements from that, and that's not that far from just straight up fantasy.
Not totally.
That's definitely true.
So then,
one of the things that's hard with Lovecraftian for me is that not any of the actual content in itself, but the thematic, significance of it. Like, Lovecraft wrote horror for the modern person. Like, he wrote horror, like a horror that's about the limitations of who you are as a human being.
Right.
And like coming to the edge of yourself and realizing that, like, coming into an interaction with something that is so wholly other than from yourself that your only choice is to go mad. That doesn't make for great campaigns.
No, and we don't have to dip into it that far, but like we can dip into the Lovecraft in pulling in some mad, like some abomination type monsters. So like some mind flayers or man, I'm blanking on the standard beholders. Like beholders,
probably gelatinous cubes are in there too.
Yeah.
Nice.
But like, those are some of the classic Lovecraftian inspired D&D monsters, and so if we play with those in the campaign, that kind of brings that theme in at least a little bit.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I see that. I see that value. What first came to mind with this idea for me was what if we had like we're chasing. Like some super powerful wizard is like spending all his time here, like building himself his own world, like building himself his own like place to be god or something.
This is his sandbox.
Yeah,
maybe
and so like
maybe he's a robot floating through space, and we've developed onto his chest. No, wait.
Yeah. And he like as the party like enters, they enter into like villages that are really ugly and like poorly made and falling apart, and the things there are like a total abominations of like half people, half gelatinous cube, like just grody mistakes of creation. And like as they go on, things get more and more formalized or something like.
So he's working from the inside out.
Yeah, like he basically built himself a demi-plane and then started just working and experimenting.
This didn't work. I'm gonna send this to the edges, and then I'm gonna bring the good stuff into the middle.
And so like eventually like the like cultures start developing because he's created like things that are living and like
and have their own free will, and they start to come up with ideas of where they came from. If he's enough removed that he's kind of like a demigod.
Yeah.
What if the people don't know that he exists, like the people that exist in this plane, but the players do. So this is knowledge. This is knowledge that they have, and maybe or maybe not, they can convince people. They might just sound like crazy people. But, like these people believe, no, this is just how life is. It's awful, and you don't leave the walls of the city, Attack on Titan style.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Like initial adventure hook, they could be asked by an old colleague of this wizard to say, hey, this guy was, he went off to do some planner traveling, and haven't heard from him in a while, and meanwhile the wizard's been in his own plane where he's mucked with time, so he's been there for maybe hundreds of years, enough time to like make a civilization of some sort. And the players are there to find him.
Yeah.
and then they can choose what to do with him.
Yeah, I feel like I don't want him to be the baddie though.
Which one? The wizard creating the plane?
Yeah,
Okay,
that'd
then-
be too typical.
Then
It would actually
here's my question then. Why did the wizard create the plane? What's his purpose and his goal?
For some reason in my head, I just see him as like a really sad, depressed, and lonely character.
Trying to make friends for himself.
Who is just
he's playing tabletop RPGs by himself in northern Manitoba.
I'm so sorry, God.
But eventually they always leave his tower.
Or
and they wander out of his tower.
Or I think we can probably develop more and more as we go on his motivation.
Yep.
But I see it mostly as like maybe even a misguided but benevolent kind of thing where he wants to try his hand at like understanding life, and like he just doesn't feel connected with anything that lives like he does, and like can make him a pretty sympathetic character, I think.
Well, there could be an aspect too where maybe he experienced something on one of the other planes, like maybe his upbringing was terrible, or he just witnessed great atrocities, and he's like, I can do better.
Yeah, no, totally. I went down the same like thought process right there. He's he's like, you know, God level. He's like level 25, like legendary adventurer, and like he like has had offers from the gods to like join the pantheon as a demigod, like in Faerun, like in but because he's so powerful and he like has lost all touch with like relating to normal things, and that's his motivation in coming here and building this place. And now that he's built so much, he can't leave because it'll all die. Like,
and
so
then,
he's like trapped.
Well, maybe not necessarily trapped. Like, I think the idea like he genuinely cares about his creation. And he can't, like, he can only do so much. You know what I mean? Like, maybe things are collapsing, or
we can develop some stuff like that, like, or maybe he's just seeing conflict, like he's seeing like in his own like creation that he thought he could make better. He's still seeing like he's still seeing the same themes, and he's seeing or it didn't fix his inability to not reconnect with normal normal life. Like, you know, maybe even like there's like iconography of him as a farmer, like tilling the fields with the people, you know, trying to like reconnect with the basics of peasant life, right? Like, but just not working for him. Like, he doesn't end up feeling that way. And I'm using he pronoun, but that doesn't need to be the case.
Yeah, I always wonder when it comes to Celestials. They?
Yeah. Sure.
And like, oh man, I like this idea. Okay.
so like, do you think it like, and this is a lore question for D&D, I don't know the answer to this, but do you think that like within the demi-plane that he could literally be a god?
Why not?
Like, what makes the difference in transition between a really powerful thing and a god in D&D?
I don't think there's anything formal. Like, I think that's up to the DM to decide.
I think it's a matter of do they have followers, right? Like,
oh yeah,
I think you become a demigod when people start to worship you. I would think. But man, okay, so I do like the idea of the benevolency. I do like the idea of because it's so easy for the first person that you meet or the patron that you've been given is really the bad guy.
Yeah,
great reveal.
Yeah. Like that's a pretty tired storage.
I like the idea also of giving players the opportunity where it's like, you know, like we can create this character, but the choice becomes theirs. I love when there's that moment when player characters like Mass Effect 3, I think it was, where you had this choice between like, do I completely destroy this entire robot race because they want to kill me, or do I push the other button and reprogram them so they'll love me? So what's more important to me, their life and their sentience, or their free will? Which has more value? And you have to make that. I love making players make that choice and having them stop and be like, "Oh, I don't know." Those are fun ones. So, like in this situation with a giant benevolence of like, maybe making your own plane is not a good thing, but he thought he could do better and he's not quite doing better, and so it's like, maybe they're sent to shut him down.
Yeah, I think
maybe
leaving it more open to like being like, I think my friend's lost. Can you find him?
And then
and if he's a really powerful dude, it's like we've lost like a protector of the realm, and the gods have asked me where did he go,
right?
Like, because that's where he's at if he's a level 20 plus, he's like hand servant to the gods kind of level of person. Yeah. Sorry, I'm reading some Reddit posts on godhood and how you become one.
Okay. So, what have you learned?
Carry on, but I'm doing research here.
Doing research. All right. Then Jordan, this falls to you.
Okay.
What do we name the wizard?
Oh no, you guys got this one. Rickard Bradford.
Rickard Juice Money.
Juice Fat Money. Okay.
I thought we didn't want him to be a villain.
Oh right.
Right.
Sorry.
All right.
My default for this is to go to a name generator.
Yep, that's totally where I am right now.
And hit regenerate until I see something that I like.
All right, angel names: Gadriel, Ramiel. Why are angel names always?
Yeah, I want to throw this out there just for a second. There's a fantastic D&D resource called Donjon. DONJON. It's a website that has like every type of thing that someone who does improvised DMing.
Yeah. I've seen this thing before.
It's insane. Like, it has all your treasure generator, your magic shop generator. Random encounters. You can generate an entire fully fleshed out dungeon in like 20 seconds. It's crazy.
Why don't we just do this? We're just going to hit random generator the whole time, and then we'll... Okay, I'm looking for it, but it doesn't have name generators, doesn't it?
It does.
Oh, it'd be probably in general, wouldn't it? No.
It's under fantasy. If you go,
there it is, fantasy name generator. Yeah.
And then you even get to pick your setting. You can go common names, monstrous names, outsider names, quasi-historical names. It's dope.
All right, halfling female. That's definitely who our god is.
Halfling female.
One of the things that I find in my campaigns, more often than not, the gnome is the bad guy. I don't know what I have against gnomes. I don't know why it's always the gnome.
They're just unrelatable, man. I'm telling you.
They're always the bad guy in my campaigns. A few people who have played multiple campaigns.
That's good to know.
I feel like this wizard
is right now, Kyle. Although
I feel like this wizard is an elvish female.
Yeah? Of course, elvish females.
Yeah, man, that kind of it fits together thematically with the whole. If we lean elves a little more Tolkienic, like they're
you're Galadriel-ish,
being so long lived that they lose touch with lose any sort of imminency in their living.
All right, so I'm scrolling through some names. See, the problem with elvish ones is that they're always so hard to pronounce.
Yeah, I'm still on the angel names here.
So I've got, let's see here.
How about Tate? That's one of the names. Tate. Tate. Nope.
What is this great god's name? Tate.
The god of potatoes.
Potatoes. No, that's a gnome.
How about Elwis?
I thought that's a
pretty
halfling.
easy.
I got like Enwellin. I got that one.
Enwellin.
Enwellin. Irian. Tareem. Find. That's like one.
Find.
Nimradel. Oh boy, names are always the hardest. I hate doing names. I usually go to a fantasy name generator, and then I have like this huge spreadsheet of names that I've just copied, and then I assign a race to them, and then I organize them by race, and then in a campaign I'd be like, oh, hey, we're gonna meet this guy. All right, here's the name, okay, and then I assign his character. He owns this shop, and hopefully I kept good notes. All right, Jordan, you're picking a name. So what do you got?
Azriel?
Azriel is like, I think we have that one. Isn't that biblical? Real. Isn't that like...
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like that's a demon name.
It is. I think it's a demon.
I think it's, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's definitely... It
totally is.
A demon. And it's, oh yeah, and it's the guy from flipping, what do you call it? He's a guy, he's an enemy in Batman.
Is he?
Oh yeah, he is.
Oh,
yeah, he is.
Azriel.
I just assumed he's supernatural.
And I'm pretty sure he's also a demon in the Bible too.
I'm seeing a lot of names on this one that sound demonic. I saw TARDIS as well.
TARDIS. Yes.
Bird.
TARDIS Elwin. Let's do it.
How about Vega?
Vega?
Actually, seriously, Jordan, you picked this one, man. I'm off this.
Yep, Jordan, this one's up to you. While you investigate name.
So much pressure.
Justin, what have you figured out about what about gods?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll buy you some time. I'm reading some stuff here. So this is people drawing from primarily 3.5 resources,
which makes sense. Yeah.
Because there are two books that I remember now that they reference them, Deities and Demigods and the Complete Divine, which are two source books from 3.5, which are awesome. Apparently, there's like this is drawing on different stories. There's no prescribed way to become a god, but literally a long process in which you commit enough good/bad actions to gain enough fame/infamy over a very large area and enough people, and then you become a god. So yeah, it's literally a matter of, do you have people who worship you?
Yeah, okay.
You gain power somehow. Second, you can have a deity above lesser either give you part of its divinity or make you itself.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Or murder a god and steal their essence. Apparently, Asmodeus and Mephistopheles are two gods who people constantly are killing and stealing and becoming.
Maybe this wizard had divinity given to him or her. I guess we're going with her. So given to her.
I was going with her.
Yeah, we're going with her. Had divinity given to her, and then she left, and then this deity that gave her deityship to her is like, where did she go?
Oh, nice.
You know what I mean?
That's fantastic.
Okay,
totally.
3 names, one that I'm a little partial to.
Okay. Don't tell us the one you're partial to. We'll see if we figure it out.
We got Tabris, Irin, and Dahlia.
And Dahlia. Ooh.
Say them again.
Tabris, Irin, and Dahlia.
Any votes?
Dahlia connects with me. That's just a sound. Feels good on the tongue to say. Dahlia.
I'm leaning Tabris.
Okay,
Jordan, which was yours?
Tabris was my top choice as well.
Okay. I'm outvoted. I'll go with Tabris. D2Asen in chat says Dahlia. So chat votes, right?
Could we be? Could it be Tabris Dahlia? Like as a surname? Can we do
I
that?
like it. Dahlia is a nice last name, actually.
Okay, how did you have it spelled there, Jordan? So I make sure I get this right.
Does it matter how I have it spelled?
Yep,
Aren't you the canon
absolutely.
here?
No, absolutely. You were telling me what canon it is here, buddy.
Okay,
How is Tabris spelled? The way you had it?
Tabris is
Wow, everyone in chat
TABB.
likes Dahlia. Thank. But yeah, we'll do it. We'll do the last name.
Yeah.
Tabris is TABBRIS.
Okay, and Dahlia is spelled.
And Dahlia, the way that I had it was DAHLIA.
Ooh, that's a good name.
Nice. Yeah, I like it.
Ooh. Okay, so
I'm looking up the Faerun Pantheon to see if we can find a good.
Who gave the deityship to her?
Yeah.
Given some deity by blank.
It's got to be at least a lesser god, and I think we should go with a lesser god.
Yeah.
Because there has got to be, yeah, some sort like I think messing with the big names will like chain us too much to their story.
I agree.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Oh man, I don't know if the wiki here is correct. I'm gonna go to the. Seems like a small list. We're gonna go to the Forgotten Realms wiki.
That might be just the main ones then.
Is this the right one? Forgotten Realms wiki.
Oh man, I've seen a lot here. Should it be Elven?
It doesn't really matter. I think it should be something good.
Okay. Yeah. Like, so then Tabris. So she was a wizard, right? So then you have oh no, Azuth is no longer alive. Goddess of intelligent beasts, goddess of joy, happiness, dance, festivals, liberty. Beast Lord, god of poetry, song, and eloquence. God of wind, portals, travel, exploration, and caravans. Poison and disease. No.
No.
These are some of the lesser ones that I'm seeing.
Okay.
I'm just reading off what they are, not necessarily the names. And then there's intermediate deities and greater, so we're not going to do that. Demi-deities.
What the heck? Bahamut is a freaking lesser deity?
Really? I've got it as intermediate on my list here.
Interesting. I'm looking on the Forgotten Realms wiki, yeah, so I don't know how...
because it changes too, right?
accurate.
Like with the books and everything.
Oh yeah, here we go. This is why I remember I like the Forgotten Realms wiki. Is they literally have you a little clicker that you can click on, and then it'll tell you different information about them in different editions.
Yeah.
So in 4th edition, Bahamut is a lesser deity, and in actually it looks like he's always been a lesser deity. That's weird.
Huh. I've seen a few paladins of Bahamut. Is it Bahamut or Bahamut? Bahamut?
I say Bahamut.
I would always say Bahamut too. That was all from the Final Fantasy games would get me.
Yeah. You guys are... That's such classic North American pronunciation, though.
Fine, then.
It could be... no, not a dragon god. We'll skip the dragon gods.
Yeah, I'm looking at
that. Could be pretty interesting, though, because somehow there's an interesting relationship there.
See, I was looking at some of the Faerunian deities.
Oh man, this one looks great.
What are you looking at?
Sorry, Naralis Analor. I've never heard this person. So Naralis Analor is a lesser deity, known as the Healer and the Watcher of Souls. Is an elvish god of suffering, healing, and death. Unlike other death gods, they are a caring and benevolent deity.
You know what? And so if Tabris served and was given deityship over that, she would experience a lot of death and suffering in the people and could be motivated to leave because of that. Right? Like, it doesn't have to be this way. Like we're doing our part to be good and to help through people through this, but it doesn't have to be this way. I can create something better.
Yeah.
So,
if we want to make this 5e compatible, she stopped being a god in 3rd edition. Sucky.
Oh.
Maybe she was tasked with this a long time ago, and she's no longer a god. But this one is continued.
I think we can probably find something within 5e that works. Oh, that's another dead power. Let's see.
So many dead gods, man.
Yep.
Let's see here.
That one looks interesting, but no.
Yeah, the Elm. Okay.
Shoutouts to chat if you guys have a good god, lesser god that we should pick.
I got a message saying all the angel names end in L because L is God in Hebrew. So that makes sense.
Huh.
Makes a lot of sense.
Thanks, Josh, for that. Let's see. Should we go to the? I'm gonna go to the gnome pantheon because they.
I got a good one. I got a good one.
Okay.
Oh, please tell me it's 5e. What? This one doesn't tell me. Weird. You wanna maybe look her up? This one seems interesting. It's called Eldath, known as the Green Goddess or the Mother Guardian of Groves. A deity of creation could fit in pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it too. Yeah. Okay.
Worshippers are druids, pacifists, and rangers. Generally,
so far as I'm seeing, Eldath is a 5e.
Nice. That could be it.
Dogma questions. The philosophy of Eldath is highly advanced. It teaches that peace can only come from within and cannot be taught or imposed. The faithful of Eldath should seek stillness and thereby find peace. They are to plant trees and green-leaf things and tend such things when they need it, wherever they may be.
Interesting.
Ooh.
So, like, maybe even in like a kind of like a twisting of that fall, like maybe a commission that Eldath gave to this character. What's her name again? What's her first name?
Tabris Dahlia.
Tabris. She, tends and like really goes hard on this idea of she's going to tend something. But instead of looking for like inner peace, she looks to like give peace to these things that she creates. Maybe, I don't know. That's just an idea. That seems a little weak.
Well, I could see that maybe she could craft something because the world of where she is one of awfulness and hardship, and probably seen many people die. You could have that of like, what if we were to create something new where that didn't have to happen?
But then why did she leave?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it could be that Eldath doesn't want her to actually be actively involved and like engaged in like doing. No, that doesn't make sense. I don't like that. I'm 180ing on this on Eldath right now.
Okay.
Because it's just too. I think it's too like. Because like Eldath is basically where I want her to end up though. Like the idea of that she's in this place out of a calm, compassionate thing, but that's not why she went there in the first place. So is there like some good demigods of justice or something?
Ooh.
Probably.
That would fit in.
All right, let's see here. We should have been far more well versed.
I don't know anyone who's well versed in lesser deities of Faerun, like
except for Bahamut, right? We all know that one.
Yeah, I mean we all know that one, but everybody knows that one. That's not special. You ever heard of Marthahammerduin? Probably not.
Sounds like a dwarven god.
It is. But you never heard of it.
No.
Sailors, no. Connie.
And all the cool ones are evil.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at Leviatar, Talona, like, disease.
What did
poison.
chat give us anything good? Oh
Well,
yeah.
Could she be
Bahamut? Cade be like
Bahamut.
Could she be rebelling against an evil god?
I can see what you're saying with that. That's not unheard
I feel like
of.
she would have to be evil to get
the deity
godhood
first.
given from an evil god. Yeah.
All right. We should.
And okay, let's just hit me with that 5e lesser deity list. Is that in? Is that even in the just the basic player's hand guide?
No, it's just the major ones in the player's hand guide.
It might be in the DM's guide actually. What about Garl Glittergold? It's a gnome deity.
The gnome deity.
The watchful
Isn't that a
protector.
major gnome deity?
It might be. Yeah, it's a greater deity.
I think we just settle for Bahamut, right? Like, that makes sense.
And it's definitely accessible. I mean, everybody knows.
Yeah. And his domains are life and war. He's all about justice, like imparting deityhood to this person for the sake of her, like, bringing justice and life to the world makes sense. Her becoming jaded with that makes sense. Yeah, I think we have room to work there.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna go with Bahamut. Bahamut. There we go.
Bahamut.
Wow. You'd start a.
That's how you say it in Canada. Bahamut.
Imagine going to like Gen Con, be like, we're gonna play Trials of Bahamut.
Dungans and Durgans. With the Dargan god Bahamut. Bahamut. Says little marksman.
All right. So
we got it.
Okay, so we got the deity. So from here, what we need to conclude with is the motivation of like, okay, so how did Tabris attain deityship with him, and why as she decided to leave to create her own plane?
What do you think, Jason?
Or what was the impetus to leave?
Well, she's
Bahamut.
kind of her.
Just looking at chat. It's Bahamut. Just so you know. Babanook.
Like we picked Bahamut because of the war focus.
Yeah.
And the idea was that she would get what's the word? Not fed up, but jaded about that and want to switch. So like she's kind of got to start as a crusader to really get that get into the war part of that.
Yeah, like she could even be engaged in a whole bunch of like big movements in Faerun, like trying to bring about, good stuff.
Could easily
raising armies to go
a massive general.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So she served
then
in
kind of
battle.
just.
Yeah, go on.
I was just gonna say she could just watch that fall apart. Also, welcome, Macabre Derek. Yeah, like, or just watching or rather, I think it would be more dynamic to have her succeed and then watch the success end in failure. If that makes sense.
Ultimately,
so it's like the war effort succeeds, but kind of the cyclical nature of humanity. Like she watches the thing that she helped establish like become corrupt,
become
and
the
eat
next
itself.
thing that. Yeah, like maybe she even goes back to where she's from, and then years later, because she's an elf, years later the humans that she helped prop up in this other area start oppressing the people again, and she has to raise another army and go back. And this time she's a lot more powerful. And I mean, it could even be the lifetime of an elf. She could do this multiple times.
You could maybe see that maybe she's like, you could do the standard human-orc conflict. So at one point, you know, these humans are enslaved by orcs, and so she raises, you know, this human army to liberate them, and then only to come back a few hundred years later where now the orcs are the slaves. And she's got to do the same thing over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that idea. The violence begets violence sort of style. Wanting to step away from that. Hoping to create a land of peace. And, yeah. At some point, things go wrong. Or she's incapable. She wants to, but she doesn't.
Or it's that she's now the author of the same thing, but now that for some reason, now that she's the author of it, she
can't
actually instead of seeing hopelessness, she actually sees develops almost like a love for her creation. That she sees that it's inescapable. Like, and so by leaving, by shutting down the demiplane, by allowing what she's made to die, like that's the true injustice. Something like that. I don't know. Maybe that's trying to be too hard to be profound.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to find her motivation, right? Because that's going to inspire and like, okay, so then how did this get created, and so that we have something to start us off with, and so on and so forth. But yeah,
like that's basically that would be why she has been there the whole time.
Yeah.
Like it's that she's just resigned to basically being the god of this world that she made.
And maybe like, because we go back to the sad element, it's almost like trying to hold sand, right? Like desperately trying to hold as much as you can and keep it safe, but it just keeps falling through, and you do your best.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Macabre Derek, we're starting our whole story. We're developing a story for 5e that we're going to release as a campaign for the community.
Yep.
And with your help as chat, and right now we're developing a character who is the reason why we get to put the campaign in a demiplane, so we don't have to deal with regular Faerun lore.
As much as we can. Well, I'll recap what we got, and then we'll be back next week. So we started out with an idea of cyberpunk, wanting to be cyberpunk.
Wow,
we've come a long way. The idea of maybe fantasy-ish, maybe banding together, but then we kind of reside like we don't want to recreate the entire wheel and keep it accessible. And so we have the possibility of maybe adding a class of our own if we need to at some point in time. As you said, we want to create a demi-plane so we don't have to be beholden to everything within the Forgotten Realms universe that we're just not as well versed in. Yeah, and so looked in the Faerun world, the idea of having wrecked villages or something where somebody created something, this powerful wizard. As much as I wanted it to be a gnome, I got outvoted for it to be an elf. Of course, it's always an elf. It couldn't be like a halfling assassin.
We decided if it was a gnome, it had to be a villain, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Sorry, if I can cut you off a little bit.
Go for it.
There's just two great block texts in chat that I would love to read out. So Macabre Derek says, just joining in, but from what I get from this, have you considered that this conflict that keeps emerging, bringing her to godhood, has become her own gilded cage? She cannot stop because things will fall apart, but she has grown to despise what she has become in that regard.
Absolutely.
So I think we're doing that, but we're also kind of doing a twist on that from what we said, that like instead of it becoming a gilded cage, she has actually been able to see the kind of the beauty in the inevitable conflict, and that actually that by watching it happen over and over again, even as she was responsible for creating it, that she can see that, oh, we can't do better. And so when these people do these things over and over again, that it's almost like instills a sense of love and sympathy for those people instead, and that's why she stays in this demiplane. So in a certain sense, yes, it is a gilded cage, and things will fall apart.
I do. I don't think I have a note there of it falling apart if she were to leave. I like that addition.
For sure. Yeah, they're all gonna die if she leaves. Definitely. Aiden L says,
and are they even able to go to a different plane? Like, is that even going to be an option, or is their life essence also tied to the demiplane that she created?
I think so, because she's not a greater deity, and so she would lack the power to allow
to get all the way there.
Yeah. Oh, you have a guest, Justin.
Oh yeah, forgot about. This is my cat, Gaius. Hello. I keep forgetting, in this camera angle you get to see that stuff, and when I normally stream you don't get to see my cat. Aiden says, oh, he's just doing a recap for us.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Aiden.
And then Macabre Derek says again, the old mark of live long enough to see yourself become the villain. This conflict is now her existence.
Yeah.
It's
a great
basically
story.
Something like that.
Yeah. I love that. I think we'll wrap it up there. Thanks, chat, for everybody contributing and everything else. And so next week we're going to be talking a little bit about starting point. So how do we implement? How do we get people together when you have a random group of people who want to play a campaign that may have never played before, suddenly create a party together? And so we want to help with that and create a good starting point as we develop the world more and everything else and tell more stories. That's it for Dungeon Masters Anonymous. Thank you, Jordan, for coming out. Really appreciate you being on episode 1.
Thanks for having me.
So if anybody has problems with the name Tabris Dahlia,
yeah,
they're coming to you.
It's your fault, buddy.
I have to do the thing. I have to do something for chat. Grah! There you go. They'll get it.
Okay, I don't, but sure, we're good with that.
Okay.
Do the thing. All right, take care. We'll see you all next week.
See you next week, guys.
See ya.